friends, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel, Life Between Words. I know that I said that I wasn't going to buy very many books this year, and I have stuck to that. I have not bought very many books this year, but I also haven't done a book haul since like September of last year. So I do have quite a pile of books to show you, plus the few books that I've accumulated this month. I don't think I got any in January, but I did get a couple in February. The first book I have to show you, I stole from my parents' house. Except I didn't really steal it. They told me I could have it, or take it, or borrow it. Anyway, that is At Home in Mitford by Jan Karon. This is a series of books that's been out forever. My parents love this book. It's just a really cozy book about this town called Mitford and the pastor, Father Tim, the bachelor rector of the town, and just sort of the things that happen there. I've heard that it's very sweet and cozy, and when I'm in the mood for something like that, I know that this is a book that I'm going to really want to pick up. Next, I have a short story collection, Sweet Home by Karis Bray. I've heard a few booktubers talk about this and how much they love it, and I just have a feeling that I'm going to really enjoy it too. I have not read any short story collections ever, and I figured that this was a really good place to start because it's about parenthood, and I'm a mom. I want to read about parenthood, so yes. I have one classic in this pile, and that is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I have only ever read one book by the Bronte sisters, and that is Jane Eyre, which I love. It's one of my favorites. And I don't really have much of a desire to read Wuthering Heights. I just don't think that that is going to be the book for me. So I figured I might try a different one, and Wildfell Hall is where I'm going to start. This is about Helen Graham, who has escaped from her abusive husband, and I don't know much more than that. Next, I have a stack of mysteries. The first one is called The Daughter of Time. I heard about this book on Kate Howe's channel. It's by Josephine Tey. The reason that I find this mystery so compelling is that it follows the true disappearance of the princes, I think the sons of Richard III. Anyway, they disappeared from the Tower of London a very long time ago. This book depicts that mystery and what might have happened and how it may have been solved. I've heard really great things about Josephine Tey's writing. Can't wait to pick this book up, and it's also very short. When my friend Julie from A Girl in a Book came to visit back in October, I took her to a really sweet little mystery bookshop in my hometown, and I picked up a couple of books there on the recommendation of the ladies who work at the bookshop, and Julie picked up the same ones because I think we're hoping to read them together. The first one is called The Crossing Places, and it follows a forensic archaeologist named Dr. Helen something. No, Dr. Ruth Galloway. Helen. She gets commissioned by the chief inspector to help solve a mystery. I know very little other than that, but the fact that she's a forensic archaeologist really piqued my interest because something about that reminds me a lot of the show Bones, which is kind of a silly show, but I also love it. We also picked up a psychological thriller called Under the Harrow. Yes, Under the Harrow by Flynn Barry. This is about two sisters, well, really one sister who goes home to visit her other sister, and when she arrives, she finds that her sister has been brutally murdered. I get the impression that this book sort of is exploring the ramifications of that. The next book is actually a historical thriller, and that is called The Alienist by Caleb Carr. The first time I heard of it was from the book Nester, who was introduced to historical fiction through The Alienist. The way she talked about this book was so compelling and made me want to pick it up right then, that she's always in search of a book that captures her in the same way that this book did. So I'm very, very intrigued and excited to pick this book up. This also follows some real-life historical figures, although I think that the story itself may not be true at all. This is about a serial killer who's running rampant in New York City in the late 19th century, and the police commissioner, Theodore Roosevelt, I'm assuming the same Theodore Roosevelt who later becomes president. I could be wrong about that, but what other Theodore Roosevelts are there? Anyway, the police commissioner, Theodore Roosevelt, enlists the help of an alienist, which is really just another word for a psychologist named Dr. Laszlo Kreisler, to investigate and figure out who is committing all of these murders. I also picked up A Spool of Blue Thread by Ann Tyler. This won the Pulitzer Prize. But Ann Tyler is a very prolific writer, and I think many of her books have gotten a lot of acclaim. I happen to have another of her books on my Kindle. I don't remember the title of that one, The Accidental Tourist or something like that, Accidental Husband, I don't know. Anyway, this book is about a family and the secrets that this family are hiding, and the way that the book is structured I believe, is that it kind of goes back through a couple generations to unravel this family's past. I've heard a lot of people talk about how much they love Anne Tyler, and I don't know where the best place to start with her is, but I really am interested in this book. The rest of these books are historical fiction because I have been in such a mood for historical fiction, which has not been reflected in the books that I've been reading, but it's been reflected in the books that I've purchased and the books that I think about wanting to read all the time. So I'm going to start by showing you The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. This is about a couple who lives in Alaska in the 1920s. My little bird over there is chirping. And by bird, I mean my son Wilder. One night in winter, they build a little child out of the snow, and the next morning their snow child has disappeared, but they see a little girl running through the woods, and they kind of adopt her as their own and grow to love her very much, but she's not all that she seems, and I think that a lot is learned throughout this book. That's about all I know. It's a little bit mysterious, but very intriguing. I also picked up Kate Atkinson's Life After Life. This has a Target sticker on it, but I actually got it on the Amazon Marketplace. And I peeled it off. I've been meaning to read this book for quite some time. This follows the life of Ursula Todd, who was born at the turn of the 20th century, and this follows her life, but the weird thing about her life is that she continues to die and live her life over and over and over again, trying to get something right. I have a feeling it has something to do with World War II. I could be wrong about that. I have no idea where I heard that, because that is not what the synopsis reveals at all. The synopsis tells you very little about what happens in this story, so I could be wrong about the World War II bit, but I feel like I heard that somewhere. I also got this massive chunker called The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I have seen several people talk about this. This takes place during a gold rush in New Zealand in the 1860s, I believe, and that's about all I know about it. Ever since I was 14 years old and the movie Titanic came out, I have had an obsession with the Titanic, and so I got The Midnight Watch, which came out last year. It's by David Dyer. I have a couple other books about the Titanic on my Kindle that I really want to read, so that's probably going to happen at some point soon. But this actually doesn't follow the Titanic necessarily. It actually follows the Californian, which is the ship that could have responded to the Titanic's distress signals and chose not to, and so this book explores what may have motivated that ship to not respond. Next is Homegoing by Ya Jessie. This book is so hyped on BookTube, and look at this beautiful cover. I have mostly seen people pick up the American edition, but when I saw this British edition of Homegoing, I needed to have it because it's so pretty, and I think it's a lot prettier than the American edition. This follows two African sisters and their descendants. So every chapter, I think, is a new descendant, and it follows the descendants of each sister and the different directions that their lives take. I have heard nothing but really, really great things about this book. I have to pick it up. I have to read it. It's gonna happen really soon. For my Book of the Month Club pick in February, yes, my Book of the Month Club pick in February, I chose Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is about a Korean family that moves to Japan. It's another generational saga through this family's time in Japan, and I think maybe about some of the discrimination they face there. I've also heard really great things about this book, and I'm super excited to pick it up. Finally is Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. This is a World War II novel, and it follows three different women during the war. One is an American woman who works at the French consulate. Another is a teenager who is part of the resistance movement, and I think the third is a German woman who works at Ravensbrück, maybe, which is the women's internment camp during World War II. Could be wrong about that third woman, but anyway, I've also heard really great things about this book. I'm so excited to pick it up. I'm so excited to pick all these books up. I can't even tell you how excited I am. I also meant to unbox my BookCase Club box last month, but because February was so difficult and because we spent a portion of it in the hospital and I had a newborn, it was just too much for me to do last month. So I'm going to unbox it this month. So as you can see, here's my BookCase Club box. BookCase Club is a monthly subscription box. You can choose between 8 different book genres and you get 2 books every month. And it's pretty amazing because it only costs $10. And I do have a discount code in the description box below if you're interested in checking it out. I feel like it's a pretty good deal because $10 a month for 2 books is pretty hard to beat. And for convenience sake, I already split it open, so let's just open it up and find out what's inside. So let's see, what do we have here? We have a bookmark, and we have 2 books. I'm just going to put this box down now so I don't impale myself. The first book is called The Confabulist by Stephen Galloway. So I'm just going to read you the one sentence that I think describes this book the best. This tells the story of the life and sudden death of the world's greatest magician to create a brilliant tale of intrigue, love, and illusion. It seems like it's a historical fiction mystery about Harry Houdini. So Harry Houdini is the illusionist that that sentence referred to. But it tells the story of Houdini through the eyes of Martin Strauss, whose life is somehow intertwined with that illusionist. And then the next book in the box was called From the Charred Remains by Susanna Calkins. So it looks like this might be a historical fiction mystery, and as you guys can tell from this haul, I'm pretty excited about my historical fiction these days, so let's just find out what's inside the book. After the fire of London, a lady's maid named Lucy Campion comes across a dead body, and she does not believe that that person was killed by the fire. And so I think that she embarks on solving this mystery, perhaps? Yes. She becomes embroiled in that murder investigation. I'm really intrigued by this one. This is probably the one I'll pick up first between those two because it's historical fiction, and that's the kick I'm on these days. So if you want to check out Bookcase Club, I'll leave a link below to their website and the referral code. That was my massive haul. I've got a lot of books to get through. This is why I talked about not wanting to buy so many books, because I'm completely overwhelmed by the amount of books that I have, and yet I'm so excited for every single one of them. Like, cannot wait to pick them up and read them. So I hope you guys are all having a great day, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye!